Welcome to Calm Coding. This is our weekly look at what's happening across the cybersecurity landscape. We try to cut through the noise and give you the essential analysis, from nation states hitting critical systems right down to how criminal groups are changing their game and how it affects consumer data.
And this week, the sources really paint a picture of organizations under some serious pressure. We're seeing attacks hitting, pretty much everywhere, across the whole digital stack. And the speed, the velocity of it all, it's definitely picking up.
Okay, so today we've sort of grouped things into three main areas for you. First up, there's this really urgent situation with F5 source code being stolen and how that clashes maybe with some internal challenges CISA is facing right now.
Right.
Then second, we'll dig into the clever ways this group called Scattered Lapsus Hunters, a mix of some known players, has been hitting major companies using connected apps.
Very sophisticated stuff there.
And finally, we'll look at some big breaches affecting, personal data, health information, and financial details. Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. They just put out an emergency directive, ED 26-01, called it an imminent threat to federal agencies. That sounds serious.
Oh, it absolutely is. We're talking high stakes here. Apparently, a nation-state-affiliated cyber threat actor, their words, managed to breach F5. And F5, they provide critical network gear, traffic management stuff, used all over federal networks.
Okay.
And the attackers didn't just get in, they stole part of the big IP source code, plus internal info on vulnerabilities that weren't even patched yet.
Whoa, okay, source code. That's the crown jewels, isn't it?
Pretty much.
If attackers have the actual code, they could just sit there, find perfect zero-day flaws, maybe ones nobody else knows about, and hit systems running that software.
Exactly. And CISA saw that danger straight away. That's why they use the term imminent threat. Having that code means attackers could develop exploits to grab API keys, steal data deep inside systems, maybe even take full control of federal machines running F5 products.
So what's the immediate action? What do agencies have to do now?
The directive is crystal clear for federal civilian executive branch agencies, the FCEB group. They need to find every F5 device they have, Big IP iSeries, R-Series, Big IP Next, Big IQ, all of it, and either patch it immediately with updates F5 has rushed out or apply specific hardening measures. No waiting.
Right. Urgent. But to really get a handle on this threat, we also need to look at CISA's own capacity to manage this kind of response, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Because reports are surfacing, pretty reliably it seems, that CISA itself is going through, significant staff reductions, layoffs, reassignments, up to 176 people affected.
Yeah, that's the backdrop. And it does create a, let's say, challenging situation. Sources are confirming these compulsory reassignments. Some senior cybersecurity folks were apparently told they had to move to ICE, immigration, and customs enforcement.
To ICE from cybersecurity.
Yeah. And if they refused the transfer, dismissal was threatened.
It's
unusual.
And it wasn't just any staff, right? The team specifically hit was CISA's capacity building team.
That's right. The very team that actually writes these kinds of directives, like the F5 one we're talking about, they also oversee security for high-value government assets.
So the timing seems awkward, to say the least.
Well, there is an official line. A DHS spokesperson basically said CISA needed to, quote, get back on mission. They alleged the agency had been focusing too much on things like censorship, branding, and electioneering. That's the stated rationale.
Okay, keeping it neutral on the politics there.
Yeah.
But the practical question, from a security standpoint.
Exactly. What's the real-world impact? You've got these key teams, the ones writing the emergency directives and watching over critical assets, being downsized or shuffled around, right when they're dealing with what they themselves call an imminent nation-state threat, and generally a record number of attacks. You lose that specific expertise, that institutional knowledge, right when you arguably need it most. It's a vulnerability in itself.
It definitely shines a light on how organizational stability or instability can become a security factor. Okay, so while nation-states are targeting core infrastructure code, the big cybercrime groups aren't exactly sitting on their hands either. Let's pivot to what we're seeing from this newer collective, Scattered Lapsus Hunters.
Yeah, this group is like a cybersecurity supervillain team-up. You've got elements of Scattered Spider, Lapsus, ShinyHunters, all known, aggressive groups. And their latest campaign really shows how vulnerable modern businesses are through their connections, their third-party links.
They hit a whole bunch of big names, didn't they? Qantas, Disney, Toyota, Gap, McDonald's, IKEA, Adidas. The list goes on.
At least 44 companies, yeah.
And the crucial thing here, as I understand it, is they didn't actually breach Salesforce itself, the main CRM platform so many companies use.
Correct. That's key. Salesforce wasn't breached directly.
So how do they get in?
It was clever. They targeted Salesloft accounts, that's a sales engagement platform, which were integrated, connected to Salesforce. They found a way to leverage the API tokens and the OAuth connections between Salesloft and Salesforce. Think of those like digital keys or permission slips. One app gives another. By exploiting that trusted link, they could essentially pivot or jump from the Salesloft side right into the connected Salesforce environments of all these different companies and steal data from there.
Wow. So it really hammers home that securing those external vendor connections, those APIs, those tokens, that's maybe the weakest link now.
Absolutely. It's the modern supply chain attack, basically. Your own security perimeter can be rock solid, but if you grant access or trust to a third-party service, and that service has a weakness or gets compromised, the attackers can just walk through that open door. You have to secure every single connection, every token, every integration.
And we saw a pretty stark example of the fallout with Qantas, the airline. They refused to pay the ransom demand.
Right, did. They went public saying they wouldn't pay.
And the response from the hackers?
Almost immediate. They leaked data belonging to, reportedly, 5 million Qantas customers. Names, emails, phone numbers, birth dates, even frequent flyer numbers.
Ouch.
And the hackers weren't shy about it. They posted a message on their leak site, something like, "Don't be the next headline, should have paid the ransom."
Just blatant. Shows how confident they feel.
Completely. They feel they have the upper hand in this ecosystem.
Okay, but law enforcement did try to hit back, didn't they? The FBI, French authorities, they seized some domains.
They did. They took down the group's main website on the regular internet breach forums.hn and even their site on the Tor network.
How effective was that, really? It sounds like the group bounced back pretty quickly.
Well, the Tor site was back online fast, so in terms of just seizing the domain name, maybe more symbolic. However, the sources suggest something else might have happened during that takedown. The group itself claimed the FBI managed to destroy their database backups and their escrow systems.
Ah, so that would hurt them operationally.
Potentially, yeah. Enough that it seems to have forced a major change in how they operate.
And this is where it gets really interesting. This shift in tactics. What are they doing now?
They basically came out and said the era of forums is over. They view any new attempt at setting up a traditional data leak forum as likely being an FBI honeypot.
Makes sense.
So they're moving everything. Their data leaks, their extortion negotiations, all of it. They're pivoting to closed, private Telegram groups.
Telegram. Okay, why Telegram?
From their point of view, it offers way more resilience. It's decentralized, encrypted, end-to-end in secret chats, harder for law enforcement to monitor or take down wholesale. There's no single server or domain to seize that kills a whole operation.
Right. Much harder to disrupt.
Exactly. It gives them speed and operational security. And just to prove they're still active, elements of this same broader group, specifically ShinyHunters, were also found exploiting a brand new zero-day, a critical one.
Another one, where?
In Oracle's e-business suite, the vulnerability is CVE 2025-61884.
Oracle EBS, that runs core business functions for huge organizations globally, right? Finance, HR.
Absolutely huge. And this vulnerability was bad unauthenticated, meaning an attacker needs no login and remotely exploitable. Affected versions 12.2.3 up to 12.2.14.
So Oracle had to scramble.
They did. They rushed out a patch specifically to block the exploit chain this group was using. And this was actually the second patch Oracle's had to release recently for eBusiness Suite because of attacks linked to this collective. They are persistent.
Definitely keeps security teams on their toes. Okay, that leads us into our final segment today. The direct hits on consumer data, personal information, health records, the stuff that feels very close to home for everyone listening.
Yeah, unfortunately, we saw a really significant one in healthcare recently, an attack on SimonMed Imaging.
They're a big radiology provider in the U.S., right?
Very large. And they got hit by the Medusa ransomware group.
Medusa, okay, what was the damage?
Medusa claimed they exfiltrated 212 gigabytes of patient data. That's a lot, belonging to about 1.2 million people.
And we're talking sensitive health data here.
Extremely sensitive. The reports mention ID scans like driver's licenses, payment details, actual medical reports, even raw scans like x-rays or MRIs.
Wow. That's the kind of data that enables really serious long-term identity theft and fraud.
Precisely. Medusa put up a ransom demand, $1 million to delete the stolen data. And they added a pressure tactic, a $10,000 per day fee if SimonMed wanted more time to decide.
Did SimonMed pay, or what happened?
Well, the company was eventually removed from Medusa's leak site, which sometimes suggests a payment was made, but it's unconfirmed. SimonMed is offering affected patients free identity theft protection and credit monitoring through Experian, which is standard practice after breaches like this.
Right. Still, a major breach of incredibly sensitive information. And it wasn't just healthcare having data security issues, was it? There was another case involving a billing platform.
Yeah, this one was slightly different. A security researcher just stumbled upon it, a publicly exposed database, no password, no encryption, just sitting open on the internet.
Oh, boy.
Contained almost 179,000 files. The researcher believes it likely belonged to a billing platform called Invoicely, though that's not fully confirmed.
And what kind of data was in there, if it's billing?
All sorts. Personal identifying information, PII, names, addresses, some banking details, and crucially, tax ID numbers, social security numbers, employer identification numbers.
Tax IDs. That's gold for criminals, isn't it?
Absolutely. It enables fraudulent tax filings. The sources mention something like 6,000 cases of tax fraud using stolen IDs happened just in 2025 so far.
Wow.
And it also fuels very targeted spear phishing attacks. If they have your name, address, and maybe some billing history, they can craft very convincing fake emails or messages.
So what's the lesson here? Beyond the obvious, don't leave your database open.
Well, the expert advice really boils down to two key things. First, data minimization. Only collect and keep the data you absolutely need. Don't hoard sensitive info forever.
Okay.
Second, encryption. Even if this database had been accidentally exposed, if the sensitive data inside, especially those tax IDs and bank details, had been properly encrypted, it would have been much harder for anyone stumbling across it to actually use it. Encryption adds that vital extra layer. The attackers would have had useless gibberish unless they also got the decryption key, buying the company critical time to lock things down again.
Right. Makes perfect sense. So looking back at this week, it really covers the spectrum, doesn't it? You've got nation-states going after fundamental source code. You've got sophisticated criminal groups finding novel ways through connected apps to hit dozens of companies at once. And then you still have these basic but devastating failures in securing databases full of personal health and financial data.
Yeah, the velocity, as I said earlier, is just striking. And the big takeaway for organizations, I think, is the need to look beyond their own walls. Securing your own network isn't enough anymore. You have to vet, monitor, and secure every single third-party integration, every API connection, every vendor you give any kind of access to. That extended perimeter is becoming the main battleground.
So what does this all mean for you? Well, one thing that really stands out is how these major cybercrime groups like Scattered Lapsus Hunters are actively ditching traditional methods like forums. They've declared that era over and are moving wholesale to platforms like Telegram. So here's something to think about this week. As criminals shift to these more decentralized, encrypted, closed communication channels, how does law enforcement keep up? How do they adapt their strategies, which often relied on seizing domains or servers, to effectively track and disrupt groups operating entirely within these harder-to-reach spaces?
That's a huge operational and technical puzzle. It's going to require, well, really innovative approaches and probably even more international cooperation.
Yeah, absolutely. A challenge for the years ahead, no doubt. Okay, that wraps up our weekly cybersecurity analysis here on Calm Coding. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week with the latest developments.